Last group to present today, so we're going to start off talking about mediating conflicts in our group work. I'm Carly Andreas.
I'm Ortega.
So things that we want you to think about during our presentation, things we're going to explain to you guys is what triggers conflict, where do we see conflict, and how do we resolve the conflict. Where do we see conflict? The definition of conflict, actually conflict, is a situation when interests, needs, goals, or values of involved parties interfere with one another. We commonly see this in the workplace, at school, or in the general public. Also, different stakeholders have different priorities. Conflicts may involve team members, departments, projects, organizations, and the client, the boss, and the subordinates, etc., etc. We also focus on you also need to focus on organization needs versus your own personal needs. Is it necessarily a bad thing, conflict? Not necessarily, because conflict presents opportunities for improvement.
What triggers conflict? One of the most common things that will trigger conflict is basic disagreement. As you go through life, you will learn that not everyone will have your point of view, and if you haven't realized that already, you soon will. Another one is poor communication. Failing to communicate in the workplace may cause employees to make wrong assumptions. Poor communication can also decrease productivity and morale. Another one is difference in personalities. Everyone is different. Someone can be blunt, straightforward person, and the other can be a timid and antisocial person. And they can just rub that person the wrong way and cause a lot of conflict. Difference in values. Not everyone shares the same values. Living in the United States, specifically in Chicago, it's a very diverse city with a lot of cultures clashing together. Also, generational gaps and separate people in the workplace can cause conflict. A 50-year-old sees life very differently than a kid just out of high school. And another one, and the last, is competition. Conflict happens when everyone is striving to be number one. Who doesn't want to be the best? Who doesn't want to make the most money at a job? Supervised competition in the workplace can lead to people taking matters into their own hands, which usually means doing something to get the upper hand on the competition. And now we'll show you a video to kind of discuss it a little bit.
We can all probably agree that conflict in the workplace takes a high toll all around. One research study claims that 42% of a manager's time goes to mediating conflicts. Without a solid guide for resolving conflicts correctly, this could have disastrous results. But before we can navigate how to properly resolve conflict, we have to understand why they arise in the first place. So, what creates conflict in the workplace? Opposing positions, power struggles, ego, pride, jealousy, performance discrepancies, compensation issues, or just someone having a bad day. But the reality is that the root of most conflict is either born out of poor communication or the inability to control one's emotions. Countless times, otherwise smart, capable people place the need for emotional superiority ahead of achieving the collective company mission. But don't worry, in this video we will share some guidelines to keep in mind when encountering conflicts. First, talk to each conflict participant privately to piece together a story. When talking to each person involved, keep an objective but concerned tone. Do not agree or disagree, just listen. Second, research each version of events and then write down the conflict or disagreement in a few sentences, what caused it, and a possible solution for the problem. Third, meet with the main employees involved in the conflict together in a private room. Keep a cordial and optimistic tone from the very beginning of the meeting and request the same from each person. Fourth, objectively recite the conflict back to participants, telling both sides how you understand it. Verify with each person that what you've said is accurate. Allow each person to add or correct any details and propose solutions. Fifth, reach a final solution based on participants' proposed solutions and ones you've come up with as the objective party. Lastly, log the conflict, both sides of the story and resolution into a document. Print out a copy for each party to the conflict and have them sign a master copy to verify the information is correct. File the document with Human Resources for future reference if the conflict ever arises again. Remember, the worst thing you can do is avoid the conflict hoping it will go away. This too shall pass is not an option, ever. For more tips, please visit www.
Two or more parties to find a peaceful solution to a disagreement. It may be personal, financial, political, or emotional. And some of the techniques are just discussing. Forces, which is also known as mediating, may provide a very quick answer to a conflict, but not the best one. Collaborating, just a simple attempt to work with a person or a group you're having a problem with, or another way is just agree to disagree. Compromising, when collaborating or forcing not work. Withdrawn is when nothing is working, not doing nothing. It's best to just try to find a way to disconnect with the conflict. Smoothing is accommodating. When you are actually wrong and can accept that you're wrong, it can when you can accept that you're wrong, you can resolve the conflict. When a dispute arises, it's often best to use at least one of these that to resolve your conflict with the person or
I'm going to show another video to discuss it a little further.
Let's take a look at some conflict resolution strategies and negotiation skills. I have some of these that I'd like you to consider incorporating as a listener. And one of the things we should do is listen to ourselves first. And that is to double check whether or not we have a warm and cooperative tone of voice. Always listen to yourself, listen to see if your voice goes up in pitch, listen to hear your voice and its tone. If it sounds like you're starting to become a little bit harsh, if it sounds like you're starting to become a little emotional, take a break, go out in the hall, do a little deep breathing, collect your thoughts, come back and provide a warm and cooperative tone of voice. The second conflict resolution style I'd like you to consider is give the reason first to save time. Bits and pieces of the mission statement, say to be the most innovative supplier, this is what I think we should do, to be at the cutting edge of technology, this is what we should do, to treat our vendors as guests, this is what I think we should do. So people don't ever have to ask the question, why would we ever do that? Provide the reason first to save time. The third thing we can do is always call. Call anyway to reduce tension. If you told someone you're going to make a decision by tomorrow, and you realize today it's actually going to be Monday that you're going to make the call or make the decision, pick up the phone, call right now, take control of the communication, say, you know, I've been thinking about this for the last couple of days. I know I'm supposed to reach a decision today. I'm going to need a couple of days to think about it. How would it be if I call you Monday, first thing Monday morning, and let you know what I've decided? I'm amazed how long people will work with us if we keep them updated on what we have been thinking, what we're currently doing, and what we plan to do. Take control of the communication. Instead of fearing every time the phone rings or every time you open up the email, it might be them, have the courage to make the call, call anyway.
We chose this video because even though it may seem deep or may seem dated, like it was on a VHS or something, the techniques that they use can still be applied and they still prove to be effective and efficient in how we handle conflict. Here's some tips on how to handle conflict. Conflict is going to happen, it's inevitable. Most conflicts could have been resolved in the earliest stages if the skills that mediators used were actually used. The first tip for you guys is to stay calm. As we get angry, we start listening to argue back. It's important to listen to what they're saying, not to argue back, but just to actually hear what the words that they're saying. Second is listen to understand. The only listening was being done to formulate an argument back to prove your point. You need to listen to other people and hear them out. And then thirdly, accentuate the positive. It's really important to find commonalities between you and the person on the other end. Things like, oh boy, I understand what you're going through, or I had the same situation happen to me. It makes more of a better, open route of communication to each other.
Okay, and I want to talk about a little bit how we can prevent conflict. It's simple. First off, keep communication open. It's important to talk to one another so that everyone's always on the same page constantly. Also remember to be mindful and respectful of others. Remember to keep an optimistic attitude, attack the issue, not the person. And lastly, focus on the future, not the past. You can't change the past, but